on my way back home from the gym, and I heard something which really made me think. So I wanted to share it with you. Now, of course, selling is something that I've kind of grappled with quite a bit, right? And it's one of those things. Of course, I started off uncomfortable, but as I've listened to others, I've opened myself up to the idea that maybe we shouldn't look at it the way we do. And sometimes, I talk about mindset, of course, that just that if you shift the way you think about it, that can make the biggest difference. So of course, what I've been kind of working on from these experts, these coaches, is that selling is service. It's a way to serve. And of course, that's a very radical way to think about it. But today, what I want to talk about is that where do we get this idea that selling is bad, it's kind of sleazy? And of course, when I talk about selling or something, a lot of people may think this idea of a used car salesman comes to mind, right? And maybe I think of that too, and it's like, yeah, I don't want to be that, yeah, oh gosh, everybody hates that. And of course, that's kind of a stereotype in our industry, maybe for a good reason. Maybe you have had experiences with used car salesmen who were kind of sleazy, but oftentimes, even if you haven't, you still have that perception, this idea in your head. So I thought of that, like maybe it is because of these experiences we've had with actual real sleazy salespeople. But on the coach that I was listening to had a really interesting idea, and they proposed that it actually goes way back, all the way to childhood. And the example they used was that if you wanted I don't know, like a gaming system, Nintendo, Xbox, whatever, or a bike or something like that, and you went to your parents and said, "Hey, can I have a bike? Can I have that bike?" And they would say no, and you, "Oh, please, get a pretty please," and like, "No, I told you no." And if you think about it, no, well, I'm not sure. I'm not gonna say anything about my parents. They were great. They were awesome. Right? But it's possible that a lot of us in our childhood had this experience. And if you think of that, that is an act of selling, right? I mean, selling is woven into our lives. And it was when we were, as a kid, trying to sell this idea to our parents. But that interaction wasn't positive at all. And so that's what they're saying, suggesting is that the seeds of this idea that selling is bad are planted way back because we see the irritation and the annoyance on our parents' part when we're trying to sell them this idea. Now, of course, I'm not sure what to do with that quite yet. Again, I still I'm working with this idea that selling is a way to serve. In fact, this coach used a line which is surely controversial, and they said selling is the greatest act of love, not just an act of love. It's the greatest act of love. I'm like, whoa, what, right? So keep working with that idea, that thought, but then maybe go back and see if there was this connection with your childhood when you asked for a bike or a Nintendo. Now, of course, other thing that I'm going to be focusing more on, and I'm kind of surprised that I actually do it with my kids already, and I feel so proud, is that when they ask something, I may say no, but I go back to them and I ask them that, hey, you need to be more persuasive and you need to make your case. And sometimes I drop in and say, oh, you argued for this, and they said I said no, you didn't come back. You could have said this, you could have said this, you could have said this, right? So and I'll relate this quick story to kind of end this video, which is my son when he was younger. He was watching TV shows, and man, as a parent, it's all a hard thing. Like, oh gosh, how do you control what they can watch, what they can't watch, and all of that sort of stuff. And there was one show which had kind of kids in it. Kids were the characters, but there was a lot too much going on. I felt about girlfriends and boyfriends and dates and that sort of stuff. And I said, you shall not watch this. This is not okay for you. You're not kind of ready to date and that sort of stuff. And he went with it, absorbed it. But then I think a few days later, he came back and he said, Dad, you told me not to watch this because of this reason. But tell me one show which does not show this side of us, right? Which doesn't have somebody falling in love with somebody. There's no flirtation going on. And he didn't quite say it that way, but that was the case he was making. And it was a really convincing case. I ran through in my head all the shows that we do watch together, and I said, man, every one of that has that element. So there you go. That's my story. All right, folks. I'll catch you next time. Bye, Ron.